Hello and welcome to this video explaining some things about the Samedi Dimanche WXR-700, which is a FM synthesis software synthesizer. It's currently available in the VST3 format. We are working on a Mac version as well, which will hopefully be available um, soon. In the meantime, just wanted to go through a few of the different features for anyone who's interested in this or knowing more about it. Um, Obviously, it's here on the screen. The plug-in synthesizer has a factory preset system or set, which we can go through a few of those just very briefly. But this is not really meant to be a demonstration of the presets. This is more just like explaining the different aspects of the controls, really. This one. So we've got the bass there. We've got the lead category with various different presets within each category, of course. Because of the characteristics of this software, we tried to go with some presets that sound fairly similar to the sort of presets that you would have got on a hardware FM synthesizer, like the famous, DX7 and things like that. Although the presets and the synthesizer are not a exact emulation of anything. They're not an emulation of Yamaha or anything like that. It is different, but it can be used in a similar way, and it's basically in the same kind of category. For those of people who really want to use the exact sounds from their 1980s hardware FM synthesizer from famous brands, there is an option to do that as well, because we can just go to import DX7 and then it will import the hardware presets that you want to use if you have any of those. And even if you don't have any, you can download like quite a lot of them from the internet, of the famous kind of 1980s FM presets. But anyway, back to the software itself. We've got 4 different operators that are visible at any one time. But there's actually 8 operators in total, so it's an 8-operator synthesizer. To go to the operators 5, 6, 7, 8, you have to click on 5 to 8 on the GUI. And if it's on 1 to 4, that shows you operator 1, 2, 3, and 4. Every operator has its own kind of ratio, has its own level. It has its own independent detune, amplitude kind of envelope for that, like attack, decay, sustain, release. And also you can choose what waveform that you want for each operator. So you can choose in the drop-down menu. This one is at the moment on saw. You can change it to sine or square. It doesn't have all the various things that hardware synthesizers, FM synthesizers have in terms of the oscillators, but it does have quite a few different options to choose from. So that's a fairly decent thing to kind of get started. Basically, the ratio is kind of sort of affecting the pitch of the operator. And it's like a whole number ratio would be like 3 to 1 or 2 to 1 would be more kind of harmonic, more kind of musical. Then if you have a slightly more strange value for the ratio, like 0.012 or any random value, the sound starts getting a bit more strange and more unusual. So really, it's up to the user to just choose what values they want for each but obviously it will be relating to specific sound. Certain values are going to be needed for certain types of sounds. Obviously, the level, the carrier and the modulator is of course kind of within the operator. Also, if at the moment we have a kind of standard algorithm loaded up. There's always an algorithm loaded up, but you can load up various different algorithms. At the moment, it's on algorithm number 20. If we change the sound, changing the algorithm, we can change the sound, obviously. So at the moment, it's sounding like this. We change the algorithm number, then the sound obviously changes because the different algorithms are connecting the different operators in a different way. So kind of changing the sounds. The diagram here of the operator routing is showing you what is affecting what. So this one we've got operator 2 going to operator 5, and then some other linkages here with 3 and 4. If we move to a different algorithm, it's got a different configuration, so it's all lined up in kind of series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this one, it's algorithm 15, and we can whiz through the different algorithms. If there's only, you might think, oh, there's only 20 algorithms here, so that's not enough. I want a different algorithm that's not available. Okay, well that is fine. You can do that by basically creating your own algorithm. So you can go to, if you click on this button here, which says Custom Algorithm Editor, then it goes to this page, and then you can set up a new algorithm, which is not a factory standard one. It's like, it can just be whatever you want. You can just do it however you want by activating and deactivating the different setups, kind of configuring it to be however you want using this interface here. And you can reset that back to, if you do it all and then you think, oh no, this has gone wrong, this is completely wrong, no problem at all. You can just reset it and it just wipes it completely. It goes back to the start from scratch all over again. You can also lock it as well if you want to do that. So if you want to prevent yourself or anyone else from accidentally ruining and messing it all up, you can just do lock and it will lock it there. And you can unlock it again to start changing it again. But going back to the main screen, there's a few other things to look at. The different screens can be accessed by this kind of menu at the top. The first tab is for this screen, which is the main screen. Then the second tab is for the second screen modulation algorithms, and then the final tab is called performance, and that's another different screen with different things on it for more kind of for live performance. But going back to the first one, the sound is obviously affected by these controls, but it can also be affected by the modulations and how you've got them set up. So if you want to set them up in a different way, you go to the second page, which is the mod matrix, and you can connect certain features to certain destinations. So if you want the source of an LFO going to the cutoff of the filter, you just click on LFO, drag it to the filter. Or if you want it to go to FM mix, you click on LFO, drag it to there. So you can click on your source item and drag it over to the destination. So that destination is the sound aspect that is altering. Source is the control item that is being used to alter that kind of sound. So, and we've got various different features, obviously, a modulation matrix basically. We've also got 4 routing slots that are called S1, S2, S3, and S4. I'm going to pause that music for a minute. These routing slots are basically they're like a kind of a preset, but not a sound preset. They're like a preset for modulation rather than a preset for a sound. So the routing slots are like kind of like a preset for a modulation. So if you want to have a certain modulation setup in a certain slot and then another modulation setup in another slot, you can choose slot 1, slot 2, slot 3, slot 4, S1, S2, S3, S4. It's not an on-off. It doesn't turn them on and off, the S1, S2, S3, S4. It's just an editing. So if you want to edit S1, you click on S1. If you want to edit S2, you click on S2. It doesn't actually turn them on and off. I think they're all on, basically. So it's not for switching on and off. It's just for editing purposes to activate these buttons here. Yeah, all 4 slots are basically connected to the audio engine. So if a slot has some kind of setup like a source, a destination, and a depth, it will affect the audio, even if you haven't clicked on it. But if you want to edit it, you have to click on it. The sources are obviously fairly self-explanatory. They're all on here. You can also see that the sources are color-coded. Also, the LFO is available on the performance page, which is the 3rd page. When the rate of the LFO is very high, it can get more stepped in its appearance, but when you pull the rate down to the low rate, it becomes more like a curve. Actually, the LFO is curved, a curved sound wave in terms of the audio in all settings, so it won't actually sound depth or like it's kind of has kind of stepping in the sound. It's just the way it looks. It's just the way it's been set up to look like that. Just to give you an indication if it's either a high amount or a low amount. High amount looks more steppy, low amount looks more smooth, but actually the sound is smooth in all cases. There are no kind of step artifacts in the actual sound, which is nice to know. So it's more of a visual distinction. Also, the macro below is for well, it relates to this really. Like on the performance page, basically, it's like a kind of like a control knob in a way. The macro, you can basically use your MIDI controller if you have like a hardware MIDI controller, like a MIDI keyboard or some kind of MIDI sequencing device or Groovebox or whatever, and you want to use that as a controller, you can map the physical controls, knobs or sliders to a macro and then use that to control like various different things if you want to do that. Important thing to keep in mind, this synthesizer has multiple different parts, so it's technically multi-timbral. Part A and Part B, basically, there's the slots for modulating things, root and for routing do affect both Part A and Part B, so that's something to keep in mind. Mod wheel and pitch bend, I've noted down here, they are stored as per part parameters. So that's something to keep in mind. So one mod wheel movement will affect both part A and part B at the same time. Of course, if you don't have any, if you want to keep part B silent and just have part A kind of sounding, then the software synthesizer will just be mono timbral with only one sound. So it's up to you whether you want it to be layered with two different sounds playing at once, or whether you want it to just have one sound only. That's entirely up to you, the user, to choose, to set it up and to choose what you want, which you can do. The preset browser also has a few other items here. It has a style selector, so you can go to style EDM. You can select things like the mood and things like that. Although some of them are blank in this particular version. That is basically it, apart from the one thing which I've briefly mentioned before. You can import your own presets if you've got them in the sysx format, .syx format. It may not sound 100% the same as the original presets in a 1980s hardware synthesizer, but it will sound fairly similar. So if you've got any old presets from your FM synthesizer that you want to import, you can do that here. The software had to have a completely kind of different setup for catering to that. So it's got like two setups really. One setup for internally for this, the factory preset, and a different setup internally for handling the old hardware presets, but that's only going on behind the scenes. So the user doesn't really need to worry about the two different setups of the engine, because as far as the interface is concerned, there is only one setup which is controlling every aspect of the engine. Right, that's basically all we need to look at for the moment. I'll just try to play a few other sounds. Quick clear the filters. It's got various different polysynths showing you the tagging for the characteristics. Warm analog type sound. Warm analog refers to the sound. It's like a descriptive term for the sound, but in fact there are no analog presets or sounds. It's all digital, obviously, because it's a frequency modulation synthesizer. Various different polysynth sounds. Brass. One of the things that doesn't get used much these days, but should do more. Some brass sounds, choir, and all the other typical things that you would like from this kind of synthesizer: analog, electric piano, dyno piano, and various other things. And I think that is just about summing it up. So thanks for listening, and put any comments below.